Better Broths and Healing Tonics is a book that blew me away when I found it earlier this year. It's so thorough, so accessible, and so creative, sharing many ways to make broths and make them easy, plus incredible healing recipes for broth tonics, infusions, blends, and meals. In this episode, Andrea interviews half of the pair that created the book, Jill Sheppard Davenport. They talk about healing with nutrition and how Jill, as an experienced practitioner, approaches it. Jill shares her broth tips and tricks and also talks about the revelation to me in the book, sweet broth. As Jill says early in the episode, there is so much healing possible in your kitchen. Listen in to Andrea's chat with this expert and get playing with broth. And stay to the end when I'll rejoin you to explain how you can win your own copy of Better Broths and Healing Tonics. And if you're a patron, check out the treasure trove where you'll find 2 of our favourite recipes from the book.
Welcome to the Ancestral Kitchen Podcast with Allison, a European town dweller in central Italy, and Andrea, living on a newly created family farm in Northwest Washington State, USA. Pull up a chair at the table and join us as we talk about eating, cooking, and living with ancient ancestral food wisdom in a modern world kitchen.
Right. Good early morning to you, Jill. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning to you.
So for the listeners, this is not my usual Allison sitting across the internet from me today.
This is Jill Sheppard Davenport.
And she is the co-author with Dr. Kara Fitzgerald of this amazing book. I think Allison heard about this on another podcast or something, Jill. I was trying to remember how she came across it. It's called Better Broths and Healing Tonics. 75 bone broth and vegetarian broth-based recipes for everyone. Wow, this book is awesome. I'm so glad Allison told me about it. And I think everybody who's met me since Allison told me about it has also heard about it because
Sweet.
I started reading it and I was like, this is a medicine book. Like this is food medicine. I mean, it's amazing. I'm just blown away by the level of research that you guys have put into this book. So,
Oh, awesome. Well, let's spread the word, not just about the book, but about food as medicine. There's so much healing possible in your
yeah,
kitchen.
I
So I'm
know.
excited to
Yeah,
dive in.
you're so right. And honestly, your book makes it uncomplicated because I feel like
Mm.
there's a lot of things out there where people are like, oh, it's really good for you. Just do this or something like this. And then people who have no idea what this or something like that is, they're like, what are you talking about? This book just makes it so simple. So I'm super stoked to talk about it. And I'm super stoked for our listeners to hear about this book. I have questions from Allison because she was hoping to get to talk to you. But as it turns out, they're like destroying the apartment above her. So you wouldn't be able to even hear her voice if she was on the audio. So,
Well, hi, Allison.
yes.
Hi. I look forward to answering your questions.
Yes, so I have her
And it's
questions.
just great to chat with you,
Yeah.
Andrea. Awesome.
So how we start our episodes is I ask you, what did you last eat before we recorded?
Ooh, okay. So I've been doing a smoothie in the morning lately, and let's see, what did I put in it? So kind of my usual goes something like this, and this is what I did this morning. So I throw in a handful of wild frozen blueberries,
Ooh.
and I tuck in spinach and kale, a carrot, just a few squares of frozen mango for just a touch of more sweet. And then I throw in acai, but the unsweetened real stuff, not the sugary topping stuff. Um, and then three tablespoons of hemp seed hearts. I'm really loving hemp seed hearts these days.
Okay.
It's like 10 grams of protein plus B vitamins plus about half of the RDA for magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids.
Wow,
So
magnesium.
loving that. It's like
nice.
Yeah, so it's like this whole food protein powder essentially, but it's, it's whole food. And then chia and flax goes in there, and then I blend it all together with our sweet bone broth.
Oh, that is definitely one of the things that's actually on the list to talk to you about, is your sweet bone broth.
Awesome.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's
So I'm glad
great.
you mentioned it. Wow. Okay. Do you
Yeah.
soak your chia and your flax seeds first, or do they go in like not soaked? How do you do that?
Great question. It just sort of depends, and I know that we soak, and that makes some nutrients more bioavailable and things like that. I'm often just grinding them up really well.
Nice.
And here's my trick when you're making a smoothie. I find that if you first put in the liquid, and maybe everyone's doing this already, but it took me a
Hmm.
while. I find if you first put in the liquid and then put in any type of seeds you're using or any kind of nuts, blend it up first thing, and essentially you've made your seed and nut quote unquote milk, and then throw everything on top of that. And that's the way to make sure that you're not crunching on whole seeds, and
Wow.
so that you're
Okay.
getting more of the powerhouse nutrients out of
A little
them.
hot tip for the blender verse.
Hot tip.
I love it. That's awesome. Um,
Sure.
okay, well, thank you for telling me about that. Your breakfast sounds delicious.
If you've been around ancestral food for 10 minutes, you know liver is a superfood. You're looking at a food packed with vitamins A, K, a broad spectrum of B vitamins, CoQ10, bioavailable iron, plus many essential minerals and more. Liver is your first stop when seeking to gain energy and restore your health. Not only is it a delicacy and staple of traditional diets, it's the first thing most animal predators go for when hunting. Are you looking for a good way to work liver into your daily life, but getting it on the table just isn't happening yet or as much as you'd like? This is where liver capsules come in. Allison and I are both supplementing our ancestral diets with liver capsules from One Earth Health. We get all the incredible benefits of liver, even when we're on the road or preparing non-liver meals for our family, and the sourcing and preparation has all been handled for us. One Earth Health produces nutritious organ capsules from 100% grass-fed New Zealand-raised cattle. Support the pod by purchasing through our link, and you'll also get 5% off and free shipping as a bonus. Go to oneearthhealth.com/ancestralkitchen or check the show notes.
I know,
Hmm.
so for people listening, Jill and I were talking before we started recording, and we're both going on like 4.5 hours of sleep. So this will be
Uh-oh.
our best episode ever because it will be the
Let's talk
real
about
raw
health and
truth.
healing.
Yeah, and also let's talk about resiliency and adaptability. Like that's
Yes.
something I don't think I would recommend this as a chronic way of life, but for a short acute period of time, I'm super fascinated by how you have details in here in the book on your food on ways that it can help you um, cope with things like this. So, like I'm just looking at your nettle astragalus and mushroom boost, and it's like at the top
Yeah.
you've got the little sign that says stress busting support. Just things like that
That's
make
so
this book so
true.
usable. So, um,
Oh, I'm so
yeah.
glad. Yeah, I love astragalus. Well, and I'll just say, Andrea, I mean, so we were joking about how we're both kind of running on fumes here. And how kind of important it is to realize like we don't have to be perfect,
Hmm. Hmm.
Some nights are gonna be like that. And then if we can sort of tuck in healing nutrients during the day and shore up our resiliency, that's
Yeah.
great. Or maybe some days it's just quick wins and we can't really fuel our body most appropriately and we're getting more sleep on those days. So
Yeah.
it's kind of just about the puzzle piece of healing and getting in as many parts and pieces to fit together as we can.
Right.
Um, but I'm laughing because yesterday I recorded something, a webinar with two neuroscientists, and we were talking about the importance of sleep. And so I'm
That's
thinking
the
about, oh my
neuroscience
goodness.
thing.
And I'm thinking about, how I'm doing this morning in terms of like clearing beta amyloid plaque
Yeah.
and getting deep in REM sleep and consolidating memories. So none of that happened last night.
Gotta get those beta
but
sweeps. Oh man.
but I did super fuel with my sweet bone broth this morning. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about balance
I feel
here.
like that when we look at the human body ancestrally, that's a lot of
Mm.
one of the hallmarks, I guess, of health is that you live, if you can live somewhere where you're mostly having the days of wins, and then you have those acute moments, where your body systems get maybe tested or stretched a little bit. Um, but I feel like it's when those are persistent every single day. You're always a little short on sleep. That becomes such a huge problem.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, the pattern, right? If the pattern is one that isn't health promoting, that's one thing. But if it's sort of intermittent blips, that's another thing. And I think that's what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I was talking to a wonderful, extraordinary health coaching friend the other day who was saying, in school, if you're going for A's, you don't have to get 100% on every test. Even if you're going for A's, that's
Oh,
90%, right? So
wow.
so if you're hitting your goals 90% of the time, you're still kind of straight A living. And by
That's
the
an
way, if you're
interesting
hitting
way to
your
put it.
goals, I love it. I know. And if you're hitting your goals 80% of the time, that's still awesome too. You're still kind of getting straight B's, which is
Yeah.
great. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're on the progress to refining systems and things like that. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we sometimes I feel like some of the advice that you see out there is written in a world absent of the real life. And um you think, okay, well, does anybody really have 7 hours a day for that? But yeah,
Yeah.
coming
And,
from
and so, oh, go ahead.
well, just coming from real people, you and Dr. Kara being real people with real lives and saying, look, sometimes we get stuck in traffic. Sometimes we have less sleep and this is how we cope. I really love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we really wanted to make this book, which I know we'll get
Uh-huh.
into, Better Broths and Healing Tonics. We really wanted to make it usable and doable for folks,
Yeah.
right? So there's this whole idea of food as medicine, and you can read a whole lot about it, but we wanted to go from sort of people learning to doing, from thinking about
Right.
it to using
Right.
the information. And so the whole idea is to make a system for people so it can sort of be rinse and repeat week
Hmm.
after week and suddenly becomes ain't no thing, just part of the
Yeah.
routine. And then we've done the work for folks and thinking about how to tuck in, this spice and this herb and this food combination to support things. And, I'll say the whole first set, like the whole front of the book, are recipes, including broths,
Uh-huh.
boosts, and tonics, healing infusions and tonics, which literally can be made in less than 10 minutes. All of them, less than 10 minutes of hands on time. And the idea is we wanted to hit people up with healing recipes, those people who just, they don't have any time to spare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even for those folks, this healing in your kitchen, as I like to say, we wanted to make it super doable and super possible.
Yeah. Well, I think you nailed it in this book.
Oh, and the blends too. The
Yeah.
blends are
Oh my
also
gosh. I'm so
just
excited
like
about
a
those.
couple of minutes of hands-on time.
Yeah.
So
Like, okay. Hello, warm latte blend with immune support. I mean, come on.
I
Like
know,
what?
yeah, that's absolutely, that was one of the first ones we made. Actually, I think that was the first one that we made, and we thought, yes, we can do this because I really wanted, part of this was made, these recipes were developed through the winter, and I really
Oh,
wanted to make
yeah.
like a warm smoothie, right?
Yes.
Something that can promote rather than shut down digestion, which a cold smoothie can
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
do. And if we wake up cold, I don't know, I live in a cold sort of house that, has a lot of, lot of airflow, which is great, but it can be, a freezy place in the
Yeah.
morning. I wanted that something that can be done super quick and warm us up. So once that warm latte blend was a success, it was kind of off to the races to create
Yeah.
like our almond and maca blend and our creamy cacao blend
Yeah,
and
that one looks
on and
so good.
on.
I like how you put in the table of contents, like it says cream and cacao blend, and then you have your sort of sub heading or whatever, electrolyte balancing. So I can look and I can choose, okay, this is what I'm going for is electrolyte balancing right now. Or the herbal blend,
Yeah, yeah.
detoxifying. Okay, that's where I'm at.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, that was the other process too, thinking about not only the recipe experiences and the ease that we wanted people to
Mm.
have, but what are the most sort of common conditions that,
Mm.
Dr. Carapaz and I, that we've both seen in practice. She's a functional doctor. I'm a functional nutritionist, double board certified nutrition and health coaching, knowing that we got to make food doable and easy and actionable. And, a lot of people are walking in the door with issues with stress and anxiety and sleep or digestive, gut health kind of issues going on. Or
Yeah.
maybe they're that person's dealing with seasonal allergy, histamine, mast cell kind of needs, or working on their immune system in general, or pain or blood sugar.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was the other idea, thinking about, all right, what are the common conditions? What are the healing foods for those conditions that we would ordinarily just put on a handout or a list? Let's stick them into a recipe, combine them, make sure that they taste great. And then let's say when you're going for working on pain and joint support in 3 minutes, you can make your green tea infusion and also read up a little snippet on why and how it's going to help you.
Yeah, I love that. It feels a little bit like a consult, looking at the things in the book, because I'm thinking about, so you both work in practice. And so, as you said, what you see is informing what you need to put in here. So you've kind of captured the majority of us. Like, this is what we're looking for. Um, I just started
Yeah.
seeing this amazing chiropractor who's all about nervous system balancing and all of that good stuff. And so she runs all these tests on me and my heart and things like that. And she's showing me, oh, here's where we want to get you more in your parasympathetic. Of course, go figure. And so then I'm looking in here and I'm thinking, okay, stress busting support. That's probably what she would want me to look at. Um,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
so I can take the information I get from her, and then it's almost like I can pair it with sitting down with you and you saying, okay, so this is the food I would put, in your bowl, which is exciting
Mm.
for me.
I'm so glad you're having that experience. And also, by the way, just sideline, great job for taking care of you.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're getting your care and you're walking the
Yeah.
walk, so that's
It's
great.
I
Walking the talk.
I feel quite proud of myself for making the appointment.
You're awesome, Andrea. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and so well, so to tell you a little bit about what I'm up to right
Yeah.
now, so I'm director of health and wellness at this great company, Pennington Partners, and there, my work is with highly successful entrepreneurs. The company supports them on their financial and business success, and I work with these folks on their focus on their health for themselves, for their families, and then maybe thinking about what other ventures they want to get into
Mhm.
next. And folks are highly motivated to make an impact on the world and do great things, and also have a lot of burden. I mean, can you imagine running a company, being responsible for other people's
Mhm.
paychecks, a
Oh
lot
my
of
gosh,
other
yeah.
people's paychecks, making sure that the product and what you're putting out into the world and the way you're contributing to the world is spot on and excellent. It's just a lot of pressure. And so absolutely, I love it when I can tell this, busy executive type, hey, if you have 3 minutes, you've already made hopefully your bone broth on the weekend, by the way, or your vegetarian based broth on the weekend. 10 minutes of hands-on time. It can happen like as Netflix is sort of warming up. And then tonight, before you go to bed, if you're working on sleep, pop in some lavender, infuse it in the bone broth, and you're going to get glycine. And we can talk about all these benefits, but
Yeah.
glycine to support
Yeah.
sleep, lavender to support sleep, stress, and anxiety. Or for you, if you're having trouble in the morning and maybe you have a lot going on, and so when we're in fight or flight, the not parasympathetic mode, when we're more in sympathetic, if you really need to get your digestion going and send the message to your brain, hey, it's okay to rest and digest.
Right.
Let's gulp down, like, let's say our herbal trio infusion, has all these herbs that support
Mm.
the gut, but also get the digestive juices
Oh, I
flowing.
see.
And
I
it's going
see.
to take you 2 minutes or 3 minutes to make. That's when, for that busy person, whether it's work inside the home or outside of the home, that's where that busy person can recognize, okay, like this is possible for me too.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I just flipped to the herbal trio infusion and the lavender infusion while you were talking. And you have
Yeah.
them in here with the mug version and the mason jar version, which I love. Um, do you say mason jar because it makes more and you could like put it in the fridge or something? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so a big part of this book is all about sort of batch cooking too, which is
Thank
another
you.
time saver, right? So I'm a real person too. I mean, I absolutely need to batch cook to make it all
Yeah.
happen. So yeah, so our infusions, we give you tea bag versions, by the way. So if you just pop into your favorite grocery
What?
store, we tell you how to use those, and then loose tea for if you're making, mugs with loose tea,
Yeah.
and then the loose tea works great with a mason jar. So you have, maybe four nice cups of whatever infusion
Yeah.
that you're going to make.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, if some people tune in when they hear loose tea and herbs and infusion, and some people tune out and say, that's not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I need this to be,
That's true.
simple. Um, in the book, in the resources section, I came across this awesome, basically like a strainer that fits on top of a mug and fits on top of a mason jar. It's
Nice.
basically like a stainless steel cup with little tiny holes in it. And it's just so easy. You throw whatever herbs you want in there, you pour the broth, and I really love sweet broth with many of our infusions. You pour it over and it strains it out. You take the strainer, you flip it over. There's basically no cleanup, rinse, and
Oh,
done.
I
So
see this
we
in
don't
the
have
back
to
here,
deal with,
like the OXO
yeah.
one or the mason top screen sprouting.
Well, there's those, and then there's the, I think it's Sweezy, Swese, something, I think is
Sweetie.
the name of the brand.
Oh, I love that name.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I see that. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I really like it. And by the way, I'm not collecting any kind of cash or any,
you should
there's no
be.
promotional. In the back, they're all just the links to all the
Yeah,
brands
you've got
that
a
basically
lot
we
of
use
links
to
in
make
here.
the
You've
book.
got a lot of
Yeah.
links in here. Lots of good stuff. You know
Yeah.
the mason screen sprouting lids. I have
Yeah.
some sprouting screens, and I got because we put our milk in half-gallon jars, and
Yeah.
so I got this handle top, pouring top that you can screw onto the top of a mason jar like a half gallon and pour out of. And then I realized that I could put the screen on first and then put the pouring top on. I don't know if this makes any sense. So then I like stuff the jar full of herbs and things, and I can pour my water over it and then just strain it out as I pour it. So handy.
Nice. No,
So handy.
it's all about the technique sometimes. No, smart.
Literally.
I think it's great. I had a similar moment, should I tell
Yes.
you, in making this book. So I was also, so, picture this, right? So experimenting with different ways to make broth. So by the way, you can make it in your Instant Pot or your pressure cooker. You can make it in a slow cooker. We also teach you how to make it in your oven, kind of with a stovetop method. So, however you like to make your broth, you do you. And so can you imagine, it was one night after sort of, Jill's gonna multitask and I'm gonna make
Uh-oh.
broth three different ways. And anyway, I'm sort of distracted as I'm trying to organize to get to bed. And I'm pouring the broth through the strainer, and like half of it goes down the drain, Andrea. Like, what did I just do? And by the way, there was astragalus in this broth, which is just
No.
precious, and I love it. And I mean, I get we show people in the back Mountain Rose herbs. You can buy it
Yeah,
in bulk,
yeah.
really, really much better price than just kind of walking in other places. But anyway, it's still an investment. Goes down the drain.
Oh.
And then I have this aha moment. There must be out there a nice stainless steel pot with a pouring spout. So that is in the back of the book.
What?
I really
That
encourage people to get
exists?
a
Wow.
stainless steel pot with a pouring spout, and I've basically barely lost a drop since
Oh
then.
my
So it's all
gosh.
about the
So,
technique.
yeah, when so true though. When you think about things from a lean efficiency perspective, then you think, okay, how many items did I touch to make this happen? How many times did I pick them up and put them down? And which of those steps could just go away? Because at the end of the day, then you're
Yeah,
washing them all too. You gotta wash all those
yeah,
dishes. Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
I love it. And this is the value of having um, for anybody who's not familiar with the way the world of publishing and food goes. This is the value of having books written by real people who are actually doing it in their houses because their true experience comes in. This isn't like a AI generated recipes or something.
Do you love oats? Want to try your hand at a traditional Scottish oat fermentation? Suans is just that. It was made in Scotland for centuries and will give you both a creamy, easy to digest porridge and a tangy probiotic drink. My video course, Suans, the Scottish Oat Ferment, over at the Fermentation School, will guide you through everything you need to know to create these two ancestral foods in your own kitchen, no matter what equipment you have. Head to ancestralkitchen.com/Suans, ancestralkitchen.com/Suans, SOWANS, or click the link in the show notes to get a 10% discount automatically applied.
Oh, no.
This is
We're
a real
real.
deal.
And I kind of, now that we're talking about equipment and making this real, I kind of want to just talk about community and public health too for a
Yes,
second,
let's go
which
there.
is a big passion of mine too. I mean, my first degree before nutrition is in nutrition and public policy, and I mean, basically, I love to think about the big picture stuff as well. And so for 12 years in DC, I ran a food as medicine consulting business, working with, so my clients were government, nonprofits, businesses, startups, mostly focused on food as medicine policy and program building. So I did that alongside my private practice, food as medicine, working on healing and preventing chronic illness, and big passion of mine, working with folks on nutrition for their mental health. So, doing the community work, I would often go into places, hospitals and community health centers that were just low on resources. And they would say, this food as medicine stuff is great, but we don't really have a budget for this. And I would say, you know what? One, like, do you have a pot? They would say, yeah, we have a pot, whether it was a pop-up kitchen or kind of a larger kitchen. Awesome. Do you have a knife? Yes, we have a knife. Okay. Do you have a cutting board? Yes. Okay. You can use food as medicine.
Oh, I love
I mean,
it.
you don't
I love it.
need, and you need a heat source too. And in some of those places, by the way, the heat source wasn't even an oven. It's, what are those called? These convection burners.
Yeah, I love
You
those.
basically just plug
Yeah.
in and put it. So literally, and when I was working at the Washington D.C. VA hospital, for instance, in creating some of this programming, we literally had a pop-up kitchen, and the kitchen was brought to you on a cart,
Oh my gosh.
essentially, and just so it doesn't take much. I mean, yes, I'll talk about, I do love my Instant Pot. I do love the vitamin mix that I have with the stainless steel. Kind of outfitted it with a Breville stainless steel canister so I can make my hot soups and stuff.
Nice.
So there's benefits to that, but you can also do this with basically a pot,
Yeah.
a knife,
Yeah.
and a cutting board.
I mean, this is peasant food. This is as old as it gets.
So I hope that, and as folks are listening, I hope that we can think together as a community about how we can have the healing go on in our kitchen, but also supporting if you're involved with nonprofits or community efforts or at your company. I mean, in my company, a big program at Pennington Partners is focused on employee health and wellness. So you can do it too, think about ways that we can kind of all heal together.
100%.
That's my dream.
No, I love it. I just talked to Hillary Boynton a couple weeks ago, and she runs the School of Lunch in Topanga, California. And she started a school lunch program at her kids' school when her children were small. And now she's just been doing it for years and then now teaching other people how to go do it. But they prepare all ancestral and real food for the kids at school. And she says,
Oh my
maybe they
goodness.
only get one nutritious meal a day, but here it is. And they do the most amazing things, and the kids just eat it. She goes, the kids get so adventurous, and the parents say they'll never eat those weird, organs or whatever, but the kids do eventually. And she had mentioned bone broth was what they serve, often for like the midday snack, little cups of bone broth. So that was such a good idea because it's a good protein hit.
Oh
You
my
think about those kids'
gosh.
brains and everything.
That's amazing. Go her and go moms.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Mom power for
phenomenal.
real.
Mom power. I think it's
Yeah.
great. And then, this is just also making me think about, I mean, in terms of systems change, okay, because those kids, they're going to concentrate better.
Yeah,
They will hopefully be able to sleep better, be able to wake up easier. And again, if it's, you may have covered this at length in other episodes, but we can talk about the healing properties of bone and plant-based
we
broths too.
should.
And it's gonna keep kids in their classroom more. And when we pop over to think about the adult side, using food as medicine, there's cost savings for companies, there's
Yeah,
cost savings for insurance plans.
100%.
There's so many. When we think about around 70, 80 to 80% of the chronic diseases we face in this country are preventable through diet and lifestyle. I
Wow.
mean, we're talking
70 to
about just,
80%. That's
yeah,
crazy.
we're talking about massive potential for change in this country. And I love where we are right now with the food as medicine movement, how it's really making its way into insurance companies and insurance plans. And there's programs now, and there's Medicaid pilots and some focus on Medicare too as well. I believe that's focused on like health equity and health access and lowering costs and improving outcomes for like a few specific diseases
Wow.
like kidney disease and
Uh-huh.
diabetes and cardiovascular disease and hypertension and needs of the elderly. So I mean, we're getting there. I think in terms of making all of this accessible and making this kind of conversation just ain't no thing. Like this is
Yeah.
normal. Of course you'd think
This is
about
how we
using
do it.
using food. Right. Yeah.
This
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 is how
is
you do
this is
it.
where
So
your
absolutely.
your ground up efforts, like with this book, getting it into people's homes, is going to have that massive ripple effect. Because if, the way we live our lives does affect the way our policy is conducted in the workplace. And if every single person was eating this way, they're not going to go into their, you know, management job at an elder care place and say, "All right, hand out the jello cups." You know what I mean? They're going to say, "We need to be putting some really nutritious bone broth in front of our, patients or whatever." Um,
Oh my
so
gosh,
so
so true. I mean, having this be front and central in hospitals. And by the way, the city of New York is doing a great job with that.
no way.
Yeah, they're literally having food as medicine type, based menus with lots of healing, foods,
Nice.
as the sort of the mainstay of certain hospital diets.
It is
So New York
remarkable.
is really paving the way
That's
there.
amazing.
Yeah.
It is remarkable to me when you just go back through narratives and letters and journals and things, how little time it took for us to completely abandon the idea of food as medicine. Because it's still within living memory when it was a matter of course to dose people with food. And
Hmm.
already we're at the point where some people are like, "Oh, that's alternative," or "That's woo-woo," or whatever, and you're like, "It's not really, it's just science. It's just food."
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think part of it is that we have so many convenience foods out there.
Oh,
And
good point.
and we talk about this in the book too, like walking down the grocery store aisles. It's kind of like walking past landmines. I mean, of course,
Oh my
landmines are much
gosh.
more serious, but we're walking down the grocery store aisle, and there are just so many things to like have to avoid and jump over and skip
Yeah.
around, and it makes it really hard for the shopper. And I say something, we say something like, what? Why would we eat all these foods that literally take away from our health and well-being? Like, would we buy a computer that when we're touching the keyboards it zaps us, right? Or would we buy sneakers that when we wear them they like we can't run in them, or they make our feet feel really uncomfortable and swollen? But yet so many of us, and maybe not your audience, but so many of us are buying foods that like make us wake up with pain and aches
Oh, good
and
point.
and less energy and lower our immune system and make our brain work less. And we're
Yeah.
we're paying for it on the front end
Yeah.
with the food and the back end with our healthcare and our
Yeah.
time. And so I really think it's about just kind of awareness and doability,
Yeah.
as we've talked about,
Do you
so that
think
we can choose the right things for us. Yeah.
of absolutely. And do you see in your practice, do you feel like a lot of people because you said we wouldn't do these things, like we'll wake up feeling sick or whatever. Well,
Mm.
I don't know that a lot of people even relate that to their food because it's all they know. Like, they just think that they feel this way, and then they go and ask a doctor, like, "Hey, could you maybe treat me for the way I feel?" And as to the best of my knowledge, a lot of times they're not given nutritional advice or maybe not good nutritional advice. But so do you feel like a lot of people actually are aware that that's what makes them feel the way they feel? Or do you think they just kind of don't know?
Oh, Andrea, I mean, you're so right in that so often people aren't connecting the dots. And if that's you, if listener, I mean, you're not alone. I mean, it is really surprising, even to me, how much food, impacts our health. And just the other day, so a big part of my focus, as I mentioned, is on nutrition for mental health. I mean, it massively, even with serious mental
Yeah, yeah.
illnesses, it massively makes a difference. And there's a woman the other day who said to me something like, I just can't believe it, that uh, working on my diet and my lifestyle, I just feel like I feel less broken.
Oh my gosh.
I thought I was
Wow.
permanently broken. I was kind of diagnosed and told I was permanently broken. And in just around 3 weeks, um, I just feel so much less
3
broken.
weeks. Oh
And
my
yeah,
that,
in
like,
just
puts
3 weeks.
tears in
And
my eyes. That's insane. Oh my
yeah, and I mean, we were
gosh.
doing a variety of different things, but one massive thing was changing the diet. And honestly, within a couple of days, she felt so much better
My
because one
gosh.
piece that's so important, and it sounds so boring and banal, but it's supporting blood sugar. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely massive to get the brain to work well, but also to get our hormones in check and our cortisol levels stable. And if you think about you know, I mean, essentially, if our blood sugar is going up and down all the time, we're kind of living in this state of hangry, and there's just no way we can live and experience our emotions, positively. So there's that. But so many people, I mean, I work with folks, and even some of my clients over the years have been doctors, and some of my clients now are super data heavy, smart folks, and they've just never been introduced to the idea that if I eat, and I think a lot of us get the message that sugar is inflammatory, but even sometimes products that have 0 grams of sugar on the label, but are refined flours and refined grains, that when we eat them, they convert to glucose really
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
And people sometimes have no idea that when they wake up with sort of this arthritis-y feeling in their knuckles, wrists, or joints, or maybe they wake up with a puffy face, um, or just kind of a slower start to their jump firing their brain in the morning, jump starting their brain in the morning, that has anything to do with what they ate the night before, or the entire day before.
Yeah.
So I think you're so right, about the need to help us all connect the dots.
What is you raised this question in my mind. What is something the one of the most common things you see? We'll say, like you alluded to, say, waking up with arthritic feeling in the joints or puffy face. What's
Hmm.
one of the most common
Hmm.
things you see that you're that people come in with complaint about that you're able to nail with nutrition right out of the gate?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, first, gut health, right? I mean, a lot of people have gas and bloating, or their trips to the bathroom aren't quite regular, or aren't quite normal, quote
Mhm.
unquote
Yeah.
normal. Um, and sometimes they'll be like, and then also, by the way, I have this eczema that came on, or this kind of itchy skin, and I have these aches and pains. Do you think this has anything to do with my diet?
Mm.
Um, and so, we talk about how it could. And so for some folks, it might be appropriate to do an elimination diet for some period of time, taking out the common offenders, and then shoring up their diet with the foods like we have in Better Broths and Healing Tonics. And then what I do is give them symptoms to look out for to see what goes away. And then when they go back and experiment and eat their usual diet, see what symptoms are brought on. And lots of times it's remarkable for people. They're like, wow, my stomach, I haven't lost weight, but my stomach is flat. Like I didn't
Wow.
know that was just
Wow.
bloating. Um, or people will say, my eczema is just, getting so much better or gone. Or I'm waking up and I kind of even forgot that I have to usually stretch and do a routine in the morning because my knees and my ankles and even the joints on my fingers feel better. Um, and even for myself, Andrea, on this healing journey, when I first got into this field in nutritional biochemistry years and years ago, I did not recognize that this puffiness that I had developed to my face over the years was just completely related to my diet. That there were
Wow.
certain foods, healthy foods even maybe, that I was reacting to, and I saw my cheekbones again. so,
Dang.
um, so yeah, I mean food is really. I mean, not to overstate it, but food influences all our organs, cells, and tissues. So it's literally going to impact
Wow.
every bodily system that we have. How can it not?
You said that in the book. You said you had been so focused, to quote you exactly, on what to exclude
Mhm.
during the initial stages of my healing journey, that I wasn't gravitating toward many tasty options that could have picked up my healing pace. Which is, there's a lot of interesting
Yeah.
ideas in there, which is also, you're alluding to, hey, we could do this a little bit faster. We could not drag it out,
Oh, yes,
which I
yes.
love. And also all the variety that I mean, obviously, you wrote this entire book is full of options, so there's lots of choices. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
can you talk about the sweet broth? So you mentioned it right when we started, and I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah. Well, let me just ask you, have you ever had a warm smoothie?
Mm, I don't know that I've ever had anything called that.
Right, right. So the idea was to create something that could work in, let's say, a smoothie that isn't cold, but it tastes great. And also, let's make a broth that could work in maybe a sweeter soup, or maybe even like treats. We have a whole section, believe it or not, on sort of like dessert type
I
healing
mean,
foods.
yeah.
Um, so so basically, where our team, we created this really rather delicious broth, and it's got cinnamon and cloves and nutmeg, and it's got orange peel and carrots and apple and sweet potatoes, and it's not like sugary sweet or anything, but it works great in our sweeter blends and also in our sweets and treats. And it's got in there choline and B12 and folate as methyl donors, to support, our healthy longevity, which Dr. Kara Fitzgerald's work is just so centered around. It's got DNA methylation adaptogens that supports sort of aging healthfully instead of aging into disease and warding off chronic
Uh-huh,
diseases.
uh-huh.
And then and this is all laid out in the book and kind of in a friendly and hopefully super accessible way. But in all those foods, it's got things like catechins and fistine and quercetin from the apples, and it's got camphorol from the cinnamon and cloves, and then more catechins in the nutmeg. And honestly, that's the short list. And then plus with those spices, it's antimicrobial and antifungal, so it's supporting gut health and it's supporting blood sugar balance.
Mm.
And so it's this whole sort of milieu of wonderful tastes and flavors that's supporting your health in so many ways, and then allowing you to sneak your broth into, all sorts of sweets and treats, and get some great options out maybe for kiddos
Uh-huh,
as
uh-huh.
well.
I mean, just reading the recipe is like making me drool. It sounds so
Yeah.
good. Um, I
Yeah.
love it. I think this is gonna be such a we have so many listeners that are so insanely creative, and they
Mm.
take an idea and they just come up with the most insane, when we talk about fermenting something and then they post this picture on their Instagram, we're like, "Oh my gosh, like I never would have thought of that." So I can't wait to see what happens when they're making these warm blends and they're gonna be posting
Oh
the most
my
crazy
gosh,
things.
let me know.
I will.
I definitely want to know
I
what people do.
will.
Yes, please spin and innovate. That's really great. One fun idea now that it is the summer, we have a strawberries and cream ice pop with broth, and we have a blueberry gingerade ice pop with
Ah,
broth.
so
And
good.
I think they're literally the last two recipes in the
I'm
book.
looking right now.
And when we got there, it was kind of like, ooh, there could be a whole book just on like ice
Oh,
pops.
yeah, you're right. They are the last ones.
um, So
Yeah.
I would love what to see what people do in innovating and making new ice pop
I
recipes.
mean, I'm thinking like I want to make this because the kids asked if we can make popsicles today. So I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess fine. I'm thinking I could put in some of our milk kefir from our cow. And then we
Ooh.
do have some strawberries from the farm that's out here. Don't have any maple syrup right now, but we don't really need that if we put in strawberries, I guess. So
Mm.
this is gonna happen. And then I love that the kids will be eating it and, between you've got coconut milk in here, but between the milk and the broth, they're gonna get so much protein, and so they won't be, as you alluded to, hangry in between their meals.
Right.
Yeah, this is
Right,
amazing.
right, 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 right.
Um,
Awesome. Bonus for kids
yeah,
and bonus
yeah,
for mom.
bonus for everybody. It is funny that we have a word in our language just to describe that experience of your, emotional state tanking because of your nutritional needs.
That's so true. So on the one hand, we get it, right? And then on the other hand, I hear all the time, wait a minute, like what I eat really has to
Yeah,
do with my
like,
like health and
what?
well-being.
I mean, we know it.
So,
I've heard people say, "Oh, now when my husband and I get in a fight, I tell him we can't discuss it until we both had a meal because it's probably just that we're
hmm
hungry." It's like, that is
hmm
true. So, yeah, imagine how many fights could be avoided if we were eating if we had this book. Um, so
How do you feel about our food world? Do you want to see change like we do? If so, head over to patreon.com/ancestral kitchen podcast and help support us to get this work out as far and wide as we can. To say thank you, we've got a host of extra ancestral food material to share with you. You can connect with us more deeply via our Patreon exclusive podcasts, our after show chats, our dedicated forum, and our ancestral food get togethers. And there's a library of downloads that will support you in your own kitchen. By joining, you'll be really helping us to continue making this podcast and to focus on having a bigger impact, reaching more people, making a greater difference. So we can move together towards the future food world we all want to see. We've got 4 levels of support to suit different pockets. Check out www.patreon.com/ancestral kitchen podcast for all the details.
so so
totally.
this book is, oh my gosh, it's so organized, it's so sorted. Um, I'm gonna say real quick what your sections are so people know. I mean, obviously everybody's already sold on the book by listening to this, but you've got basic broth recipes, then you've got base broth boosts. So these are things that you put in when you're like, hey, are you really going for sleep? Or like you said, are you really going for that rest and digest? You have infusions and tonics. So this is steeping your broth with some herbs and spices. You have blends, which I just want to spend most of my time right there in that section. And then you have tons of recipes. Um, you've got the mini meatloaf with the liver pate. You've got like your white chicken chili, Thai vegetable curry, then all the desserts and things, the gummies, which I know my kids will go bonkers for. So, you also have a lot of really practical tips, like you said. So for processing, the batch cooking, storing and freezing. I like that you do those cubes. So Allison said that reading your book changed how she stores her broth. So she's freezing it
Mm,
in muffin tins now. Um,
awesome.
yeah, I know. She's super resourceful. So, and I usually freeze mine in like jars, but um, it's not very convenient when you want it right away. So, um,
Oh, I love her muffin tin
I
idea.
know.
So we lay out a whole page on basically
Yeah.
make better broth cubes. So when you're done, just pour your broth in ice cube trays, and
Yeah.
then you can pop out trays. And then we have a whole list of quick and easy, no recipe ways to use your broth.
Mm.
And then for larger portions, I think that's so smart. Her idea of muffin tins.
Yeah,
I'll
I
start
love
doing
it.
that too.
Well, I also love it because I'm a nut for freezing everything in ice cube trays. Like I freeze my whey in ice cube trays so I can make fast lemonade ferments and things. I freeze like I
Mm.
grind up ginger with water and freeze that, and I like freeze everything in ice cube trays.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
why I've never put broth in ice cube trays, but just go if you're into the idea. I just went at some point some years ago and got like 12 ice cube trays, so I can always be freezing things. Um,
Nice. Take broth to store broth in places you've never stored before.
yeah, it's
I
true.
think that in our resources at the back of the book, I think that we put in the ice cube trays that were working well for us that are kind of like
I think you
flexible.
did. I feel like I saw it in
Um,
there because it is that is
and they
important.
have a yeah, and they have a top on them too. So if you're that person that's
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, this is gonna end up all over my freezer, we got
Or
you.
more like everything else in the freezer is gonna get dumped onto this. Let's keep it
Right,
safe.
right, right.
Yeah, I feel like I did see
Yeah.
that in here. You have tons of resources in here though. So for people who are listening, like you said, obviously you've worked with lots of people in lots of different, you know, walks of life, and you've had to develop methods that everybody can have their own method. You don't say in here, all right, the way to do it is this. Everybody can sort of develop their own method of how they want to, you know, adapt this to their life. Um, can I
Yes.
ask you
Hmm.
one more question before we wind down to the end? Um,
Sure thing. I'm right
all
here.
right, how do you use broth the most often in your own home?
Oh, well, pretty much every morning I'm making a smoothie, or in the winter I'm making a blend. And by the way, when I drink them and eat them, I'm chewing and making sure I'm getting my digestive
Uh-huh.
juices flowing. That really is important, I find, for me and for folks. So it's going in there. We make soups a ton, an absolute ton. And actually, there's a cauliflower bisque in the book that was the book before the book. I mean, when when we took a broth that was just boosted with tons of different healing flavors and made what we had usually made with water in our cauliflower bisque, it just was like, this is amazing. This bisque is just, we already liked it, and we loved it. And I joke in the book, I think we gave ourselves 5 stars. It was just excellent. It was
Yeah,
so good.
I think you
So
did.
what I love is once you have a broth, you can follow our recipes, but you can also just take a lot of different ingredients in your a lot of vegetables and things from your fridge, and then boil them in the broth, and then blend it up, and you've got a soup. And so anyway, so I absolutely love making soups with broths too. But then, I mean, we're grabbing the broth if we're cooking oatmeal or something like that, or we're grabbing broth if we're making a stir fry and we've got a chicken and vegetable, super easy and quick stir fry recipe in the book. But yeah, really, it's going into everything. I'm
Yeah.
often drinking broth as like a tea, so
Uh-huh.
just warming it up and then throwing in some herbs like we do in our infusions as well. So
Nice.
I'm doing it all the time. And I will say, I personally love making some bone broth and some plant-based broths so that I'm balancing out and just getting all the different kind of nutrients I need in my diet.
Uh-huh.
So maybe over the weekend I'll make a sweet and savory, and I'll make a bone and a plant based, and then you just can infuse it through your dishes all week. And really, that's the concept of the book.
I love it. Um, I thought of another question while you were talking. You made
Bring
me
it.
think of another question. Um, okay, so let's say the person listening is a mom with a couple kids. She's
Yeah.
always living in her sympathetic because her kids are always jumping off of things. um,
Yes.
she's driving around and doing things. She's got the hustle down, but she's just living in a heightened state. Let's just say that's the average person because I'm describing me. Okay. Okay. What would you say? Where Just say I'm asking you right now, which recipe to
Yeah.
start with? Give me one or two.
Oh, okay. And recipe, or starting with a broth,
I
or
mean, I'm assuming I'm already making broth or assuming that I'm okay with
okay,
broth.
assuming you're already making broth. What would I say? I would say start with something that takes under 10 minutes. So, what I would do is first, actually, the easiest simple thing. When you're making your broth, I want you to just think about the kinds of things you can throw in that aren't going to take you any more time. So maybe turn to our turmeric, ginger, and spice boost, which
Ooh.
is our immune and anti-inflammatory support broth. And this broth, actually, if you use it in, well, like actually all of our boosts, if you use it in your meals, you're getting all of these nutrients that support healthy longevity. And just as a quick aside, right at the end here, we designed these recipes to work with Dr. Kara Fitzgerald's Younger You program, which is about turning back bioage. So I say
Yeah,
that
I'm
for that
so
busy mom whose
fascinated by
kids.
that.
Yes, yes, it's absolutely wonderful. Um, and there's more at youngeryouprogram.com about that. And she's
Okay.
got her whole book called Younger You. So if others are interested, check it out. It's really awesome. And you can use this book to really support your younger you turning back your bio age clock journey. Um, so for that parent who's got their kid kind of jumping up the walls, and they wake up and they're stressed and they feel like we're aging and we're growing older and getting gray hairs at every
Yeah.
moment, turn to our turmeric, ginger, and spice boost, and you're going to be throwing in some cloves, some star anise, some cardamom, some turmeric, some ginger. Just throw it in. Literally, just takes a minute if you've got them right there, and you're going to be getting all of these nutrients from it. It's anti-inflammatory. It supports the immune system. When your kids are coming home and bringing home germs or something like that from school, it just shores you and the whole family up.
I love
So
it.
so that's one thing that I would do. And then and literally just takes a second to do. But if you have like 5-10 minutes, then going back to our warm latte blend, which is also an immune support, in just about 5 minutes you can put it in your blender and make that. So what you're going to do is take that broth, or take that boosted broth with the turmeric and ginger and all those spices, and you just throw in some apple, like whatever kind of you know milk of your choice, and I like to use almond milk a lot in this one. And throw in, don't even worry about like super precise measurements, some flax seeds, some pecans, some ginger, and some additional cinnamon and clove. It took our team, we say hands-on time for this is 10 minutes, but really, once you make it the first time, you know what you're doing, it's like a 5-minute thing. And here's the thing too. You don't even have to put it on your stove top if you want to like heat this up into a warm latte. You just put it in your blender, high speed blender, keep the lid on real tight, and then we have a quick method in the book where you
Nice.
just blend it and heat it as it's
I love
blending,
that.
and in 5 minutes you have this warm loveliness.
Yeah, in 5 minutes, that's enough time to unload the dishwasher.
Right?
So you can turn it on and just unload the dishwasher. Well, while it goes.
Yeah, so I would do it. And then as you get excited and confident about the ease of doing this, then maybe I would transition to soups, which are almost just as quick and easy.
Yeah.
It's just a soup as
Yeah.
opposed to a
Yeah.
blend. So go there
Oh, I
next.
love it. This is so fantastic, and, I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be really wonderful for everybody listening, and, Allison and I already enjoying. Where can we find you, and where can we find Dr. Kara? Where is good places to follow you and learn more from you guys? Because you guys have the goods, and everybody wants them.
Oh, okay. Well, folks can go to betterbroths.com. For more about the book. You can go to youngeryouprogram.com for more about what Dr. Kara Fitzgerald's up to. You can find us both on LinkedIn and on Insta. On Insta, it's just help. And folks can also find me and contact me through penningtonpartners.co. So those I'd say are the kind of best places. Hit us up.
Awesome.
Also, Dr. Fitzgerald has a great podcast called New Frontiers, and maybe that's
Really?
where maybe that's
Maybe.
one of the ones where you heard about it too. And we have an episode all about kind of the sciencey stuff too through this book on
Oh,
there as
good.
well.
I'm gonna go
So
find
I
that.
love it. It's great. It's
What was
great
it
great to
called?
check out too.
The name of her podcast?
New
New
Frontiers.
Frontiers. Ooh, I love it. Okay, this was fantastic. I know everybody's ready to go start their broth now. So check out the book, you guys, Better Broths and Healing Tonics. This will be that worn, raggedy staple book on your shelf for years and years to come. Also beautifully photographed. you know, you got really nice pictures in
Oh.
here. So that's fun. Well, thank you for doing this interview with me. This was awesome. And I know Allison wished she could be here, but I'm glad that you were able to answer all of her questions and she was here in spirit. So thank you very much.
Sure. Glad to be here. Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Allison. Just loved being with
You
you.
have a great morning.
Yep, you too.
Awesome. Thank you. That was so fun.
Oh, great. Thanks,
I
Andrea.
just
I
feel
hope
so
so.
like lit up and inspired by everything you said. I'm so excited. I'll turn
That's
my camera
great.
on even though it's probably going to make my internet collapse. Um, yeah, this is just so cool. You guys I can't believe you got the Better Broths website. Like that nobody took that? That was that's amazing. Um, yeah, you guys answered so many questions that people have asked us about things and I'm like, I don't know. But you got it all on here. So, um, what can I ask, what is a methyl donor? I don't know what a methyl donor is. Something that
Yeah,
gives you
sure.
methyl sulfonylmethane or something?
Well, so there's this whole idea about, genetics and epigenetics, and sometimes we think that our genetics are our future,
Uh-huh.
and that our health is essentially sort of locked in from birth. And that's just really not the way it is. I mean, of course, there's some genetic diseases that show up kind of from infancy. For the large, large, large majority of us, it's diet and lifestyle that's influencing our gene expression, or basically how our genes function to influence our health
Okay.
or towards disease. And so that is the field of what we call epigenetics.
Okay.
And so what are methyl donors, and also kind of I'll throw in what are DNA methylation
Yeah.
adaptogens.
Yeah.
Um, these are nutrients that directly impact our genetic expression. So our
Oh,
DNA is not changeable, but proteins created from instructions provided by our genes, these are modifiable.
okay.
And the best ways that we have to modify them, to modify our risk for developing disease, is diet and lifestyle. So
Yeah.
methyl donors are nutrients that the body uses, yes, to generate methyl groups, like betaine and biotin and choline and B12 and so many more.
Okay.
And then kind of paired their sister foods, especially in Dr. Fitzgerald's work, the Younger You program, paired with that are DNA methylation adaptogens that really regulate DNA methylation to kind of so that our genes are turned on or off appropriately, so they function our health for our health in the best
Wow.
way. And at the top of every recipe, we lay out for folks the healing benefits, but also we kind of put in parentheses which foods are methyl donors and what those are,
Okay.
and which foods have DNA methylation adaptogens and what those are.
So, since I haven't seen the Younger You book yet, but obviously I have to check it out, I'm guessing she says in there things about this. And so then as I'm reading that book, then I say, okay, I want to find something with whatever, methyl donors. And then I look and here it is
Yeah.
in the book. It says right here, these are the ones. Okay, so this
These are
works.
the
This
ones.
works really
So
well with
what's
that.
cool is, yeah, in the back of the Younger You book, there's a whole appendix that sort of that lays out. So you can look up B12 and see all the different foods that are super high, for instance, in
Oh
B12
yeah.
or
Okay,
choline
let me
or
see.
biotin or betaine. And then that's in the back of the Younger You book.
Okay.
And then through Better Broths and Healing Tonics, atop every recipe,
Gotcha.
you can match them up and see what's
Oh,
there.
okay. So they really do nest together quite well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of those things that people might think, well, I'm not vain. I don't care if I look like I'm 20 or whatever, but it's like, no, this isn't about that. This is about living long, healthy, functional lives.
Right, so
That's
that we
awesome.
heal, so that we age into sort of a healthy state, not into a diseased state.
Yeah,
We can do more with
100%.
our years. Um, and I'll just say, kind of while we're on this topic, that in the beginning part of the book, we explain the concept of food as medicine. That it interacts with our bodily systems on the same pathways, if you will, that drugs do as well. And they're actually plant based nutrients called phytonutrients. And these phytonutrients, another collective word for these are polyphenols. But basically, there's this powerful group of nutrients in fruits and vegetables, spices, herbs, nuts, and seeds that are at the center of this book. And you don't have to sort of master or memorize the science, like we've done it for you just to inspire you. But what I'd love to share is that it just takes micro doses, the amount found in foods, on a regular kind of daily basis to nudge and move your health into that healing direction. That the research really shows us that it's the doses found in foods
Mm,
that are most effective for health
yeah.
and for preventing disease. So it really is. We're really talking about food as medicine. There's a
Yeah.
there. There's a major there.
Almost like you're meant to be eating every day.
There.
Um, would you say that that's, I mean, I feel like it would be, but would you say that those small daily doses would be better than, the periodic big infusions that somebody might try to, like binge on?
Well, you know what that question reminds me of? Like our first thing we talked about, which was sleep, right? I mean, the most important thing for sleep is sort of regular doses
Yeah,
nightly, as
yeah.
opposed to, you can't pull like five all-nighters and catch up on the weekend.
That's so
And
good.
that
Really?
sorry, I wish
Now
I
you
used to
tell
think
me.
that. Give me back my college days. I'll tell you some stories. But yeah, so with these phytonutrients, the idea is getting a dose of them in your diet regularly, and it's super easy to do if you're making the kind of better broth, this healing tonics kind of foods that we've put
Yeah,
together. And that's why it's so important to kind of find your way of doing it, of making a system, if you will, or making it
yeah,
simple. So if you've got 5-10 minutes of time, we've got ideas for you. If you've got 30 minutes, we've got ideas for you.
yeah,
But kind of doing this day in, day out, that's what makes a healing life.
yeah. Absolutely. Wow, so good. Well, thank you for putting this all into a book form so we can all have a little piece of your mind in all of our kitchens.
Absolutely. Happy to. Thanks,
Well,
Andrea.
let me let you get about your day, and thank you for all this time. This was wonderful, and it's going to be so fantastic for everybody. So thank you, and have a good,
Thank
let's
you.
see, what time is it? It's almost your afternoon now, so have a good rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you to Jill. We have a copy of Better Broths and Healing Tonics to give away to a listener living in the US or Canada. If you'd like to enter, either head to the Ancestral Kitchen Podcast Instagram account, the link is in the show notes, and comment on the post for this episode, letting us know your biggest question about broth. Or if you're not on Instagram, send an email to me, Alison at Ancestral Kitchen, again letting us know your biggest question about broth, and we'll pick a winner. The draw closes on Friday, August the 25th, 2023, so be sure to get your entry in by then.
Thank you so much for listening. We'd love to continue the conversation. Come find us on Instagram. Andrea's at Farm and Hearth and Allison's at ancestral_kitchen. Until next time, we both wish you much fun, exploration, and satisfaction in and out of the kitchen.